Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are breaking down Kenya's massive National Development Plan, Vision 2030. Now, this is a blueprint that was designed to completely reshape the nation's future over a couple of decades.
And right at its heart, this vision isn't just about economic numbers and spreadsheets. It's really about people and the kind of nation Kenya wants to be. It's basically a promise of a better quality of life for every single citizen. Okay, so with that, let's dive in.
So, what exactly is Vision 2030? Well, it was launched way back in 2008, and it's the country's official long-term strategy to transform itself, from the ground up.
And the goal? It is seriously ambitious. We're talking about creating a prosperous and globally competitive nation with a high quality of life for everyone, and all of this by the year 2030. You could really think of it as Kenya's official roadmap to the future.
So how do you even begin to tackle a goal that big? Well, you break it down. And that's exactly what this strategy does, right into three core pillars: economic, social, and political. The idea is that they all have to work together, each one supporting the others. So let's explore them one by one.
First up, we've got the economic pillar. This is all about building the engine that's really going to power Kenya's future, creating wealth and opportunity right across the nation. The primary goal here is sustained economic growth, and we're talking a blistering 10% per year. A rate like that would put it among the fastest-growing economies in the entire world. But to fuel that kind of growth, a huge part of the plan is building world-class infrastructure. You just can't build a modern economy on old foundations.
First, let's talk about energy. To power new industries and homes, the national power capacity was boosted in a big way, reaching nearly 3,000 megawatts. And to put that in perspective, that's enough to power millions of modern homes, and it's an absolutely critical step for any country that's serious about industrializing.
Now, what's really interesting here is where that power comes from. A massive 3/4 of it is generated from renewable sources, like geothermal and hydro. This positions Kenya not just as an energy producer, but as a real green energy leader on the continent.
And of course, to physically connect the economy, you need roads. Under the plan, over 1,500 kilometers of new paved roads were constructed. And these aren't just roads. They're really the arteries for trade, linking farms to markets and cities to ports.
And this investment, well, it had a very real impact. As you can see from this table, after that global slowdown in 2020, key sectors like industry and construction showed this powerful rebound of over 9% in 2021. This really suggests that those infrastructure investments were already starting to pay off, creating a much more robust economic base.
But look, economic growth is only half the story. A strong economy doesn't mean much if citizens' lives aren't improving. And that's where the social pillar comes in. This one focuses directly on the well-being of Kenyans.
A key goal here is to guarantee the basics. Things that we can sometimes take for granted, like access to clean water, proper sanitation, and a healthy, sustainable environment for generations to come. And there's been some really tangible progress. National water coverage, for instance, increased to over 65%. Now that represents millions of people gaining access to a fundamental resource, and that transforms health and daily life.
On the environmental front, the results are also visible. Thanks to these really invigorated national tree planting campaigns, the national forest cover grew from just over 7% to nearly 9%. That brings the country tantalizingly close to its constitutional requirement of 10% tree cover.
The plan also completely transformed public service delivery. To cut through all the bureaucracy, the government created something called Huduma Centers. And these are basically one-stop shops where citizens can access all sorts of government services, from ID cards to business permits, all in one place.
So, you've got a growing economy and you have improving social services. The third pillar, the political pillar, is really the foundation holding it all together. It focuses on building a democratic, transparent, and just society.
And this involves a really wide range of reforms. A huge one was something called devolution, basically decentralizing power from the national government down to 47 new county governments. But it also includes modernizing the justice system and, of course, fighting corruption.
For example, to make the courts more efficient, the entire judiciary was automated with a new case tracking system. This system was rolled out in all court stations to make the delivery of justice faster and much more transparent for everyone involved.
And to bolster accountability, the fight against corruption has yielded some pretty concrete results. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission recovered assets and cash worth a staggering 7 billion Kenyan shillings. That sends a pretty clear message about integrity in public office.
So, the crucial point is this. A plan this big is never a straight line. There are always going to be successes, and there are always going to be setbacks. So let's look at the reality of the progress that's been made and the challenges that still remain. The lessons learned from the rollout are pretty clear. On one hand, things like the digitization of services and getting different government agencies to actually work together have been huge wins. But on the other hand, you have these consistent challenges like funding shortfalls, vandalism, and complex land acquisition processes for big projects, and all of that has caused some significant delays.
And this really brings us to the final question. The vision is clear and the progress is definitely real. But with that 2030 deadline fast approaching, the race is on. Can this incredibly ambitious blueprint overcome all these real-world hurdles to fully realize the future it promised?